Today we're diving deep into the mind of one of music's most brilliant artists. But we're not just talking about lyrics and beats, we're going to pull back the curtain on the actual system, the repeatable methods Kendrick Lamar uses to create those incredibly dense worlds he builds. This is what we're calling the Kendrick Principle.
Okay, picture this. The year is 2012. Kendrick Lamar Duckworth, he's this voice just exploding out of Compton, California. And he's looking around at the hip-hop world, and what does he see? Spectacle. Over-the-top luxury, just a ton of noise. The whole game was about being loud, flashy, and putting out as much music as you possibly could. It was all about consumption, big celebrations, being the biggest voice in the room. But Kendrick, he saw a completely different way to play.
So let's really break this moment down, because it's crucial. Think of it like a fork in the road. On one path, you've got the industry standard. Bigger, louder, more, more, more. It was basically a shouting match for attention. But Kendrick, he took the other path. He did the exact opposite. He made this huge decision that his secret weapon wasn't going to be shouting louder than everyone else. Nope. It was going to be speaking with just surgical precision. He picked the quiet strength of a complex story over a flashy show. He chose the hard work of packing big ideas into small spaces over just cranking out track after track. This, right here, this was the moment he chose a totally different kind of power, one built on substance, not just sound.
And that brings us right into our first section, the 2012 inversion. And look, this wasn't just him picking a different style. This was the birth of a whole philosophy. This was the moment he turned his back on all that noise and committed to this quiet, almost surgical way of telling the truth. A methodical obsession with depth that, well, it would define everything he did from that on. So here's the game plan for today. We're starting with that big moment in 2012. Then we're going to rewind a bit, see how his whole approach was forged in Compton. After that, we'll define the Kendrick Principle itself and look at how he actually uses it. Then we'll get into his Pulitzer Prize legacy, and finally, we'll wrap it all up with the one big takeaway for any of us, the incredible power of density.
All right, section 2, forged in Compton. Because, listen, to really get this principle, you have to get the place. This systematic, almost obsessive drive he has, it didn't come from a record label meeting. No way. It was forged right there on the streets of Compton, shaped by all the weight and all the wisdom of that world.
Okay, so what are the roots of this thing? Well, it all starts with early poverty. And this wasn't just about struggling. It gave everything he said this deep moral weight, this feeling that every single word had to matter. That forced him to become a quiet observer. He wasn't just living in Compton, he was studying it, almost like an anthropologist, soaking up the language, the rules, the contradictions. That led to this insane, self-imposed intellectual discipline. We're talking countless hours just grinding, perfecting his craft. Which brings us to the last piece of the puzzle. He started treating record making like he was writing a novel. It wasn't just about spitting bars. It was about building an entire world. He studied storytelling to make something that was built to last.
So you gotta understand, the stakes for him were just astronomically high. This was way bigger than just making some good tracks. His real challenge was massive. How do you possibly carry the entire story of your community, all the good, the bad, the trauma, the joy, and tell it in a way that's both completely real and perfectly structured? Just freestyling it wasn't gonna cut it. He needed a system. He needed a plan. And that system is exactly what we're here to talk about. Welcome to Section 3, the Kendrick Principle. This is really the heart of it all. A philosophy that boils down to one simple but incredibly powerful idea: minimal words, maximum meaning. So let's put an official definition on it. The Kendrick Principle is this. It's the belief, the system, that says you get minimal words, maximum meaning by treating every lyric you write as a 3-step process. First, compression. That means every single word is dense, packed with purpose, layered with double meanings. Second, a moral inventory. You have to ground the work in brutal honesty and self-critique. And third, narrative complexity. You're not just making a song, you're building an entire cinematic universe. And underneath this whole system, there's one core belief. It's almost like a mantra, and it gives everything this incredible weight. The word is sacred. What does that mean? It means words aren't just things you throw away. They're not filler. Every single one has to be chosen on purpose, with precision, with a real respect for its power. In his world, nothing is wasted, ever. Okay, so let's get practical. How does this actually work? It's built on 3 pillars. Pillar 1, the Linguistic Compression Mandate. Think of this as a no-filler rule on steroids. Every single line has to do multiple jobs at once: move the story, show us who a character is, and hit the theme, all at the same time. Pillar 2, the Narrative Immersion Protocol. This is about building a whole cinematic world across an album. He uses skits, symbols that keep popping up, character arcs. He makes a universe that you can literally step inside. And finally, Pillar 3, the Moral Inventory Doctrine. This is what gives his music that weight, that gravitas. It's about grounding every single story in deep, honest self-critique, looking right at his own flaws and fears. Okay, so we've got the philosophy down, but a philosophy is just a bunch of ideas until you actually do something with it, right? So how does all this become real music? That takes us to section 4, principle and practice. We're moving from the why to the how, the actual systems and routines Kendrick uses to make this whole thing work. His first system is all about his voice. He calls it the Rhythmic Architecture and Cadence Protocol. Basically, he uses his voice as its own storytelling weapon. It's all about disciplined, focused changes in rhythm. I mean, go listen to a track like MAAD City. In a single verse, heck, in a single bar, he'll change his speed, his pitch, everything. And it's not just to sound cool. Every single change is on purpose. A high, fast-paced voice, that's his younger, panicked self. A deep, slow delivery, that's the older, wiser Kendrick looking back. It's incredible. His voice becomes a whole cast of characters in one song. And the second system is deep revision and cinematic structuring. An album for Kendrick is never just a straight line from track 1 to track 12. He is constantly resequencing songs, placing interludes with insane precision. He'll literally tear down a whole concept and rebuild it from scratch. Think of him like a film editor in the final stages of a movie, just obsessing over the final cut. The goal is to make sure the album isn't a playlist of songs. It's one complete artistic statement. It's basically a short film you listen to. So when you apply these systems over and over again with that much discipline, well, something big is bound to happen. And it did. Let's get to section 5, a Pulitzer Prize legacy. This is the part of the story where we watch him transform from that quiet kid observing in Compton into a global artistic force, an auteur whose work is studied like classic literature. And you can literally see the ascent right here. It starts in 2012 with Good Kid, Mad City. That was his masterpiece of narrative complexity, a straight-up movie on wax. Then 2015, To Pimp a Butterfly, just blew the doors off thematic depth, diving into race, art, self-doubt. It was huge. Then in 2017, you get Damn, which was just this radical experiment in structure, an album you can play forwards or backwards to get two different stories. You see the pattern? Each album was a deliberate step up, a conscious evolution of his system, building and building until, bam, 2018, the ultimate validation, the Pulitzer Prize. Let's just pause and think about that number for a second. 1. That's it. He is the first and only artist who isn't classical or jazz to win the Pulitzer Prize for music. I mean, think about that. This was the moment the world's most prestigious institutions had to admit that hip-hop could be high art. It was concrete proof that his system, it didn't just work, it set a completely new standard for genius. So when the dust settles, what is his legacy really about? Well, he basically made his methods the new blueprint. He proved an album could be like a short film, this dense, novel-like thing that you have to listen to over and over. And maybe even bigger than that, he made it essential to practice deep moral self-critique. He showed that looking at your own flaws isn't a weakness. It's actually the heart of what makes art truly great. He basically founded a new school of thought. And that brings us to our final section. Let's zoom out now because there's a universal lesson here for everyone. Section 6, the power of density. Because honestly, the Kendrick Principle isn't just about music. It's a masterclass in how to create anything in any field that truly matters. And here it is, the big lesson at the center of everything we've talked about. It sounds like a paradox, but every single creator needs to hear this. The fewer words you use, the more weight they carry. Real impact doesn't come from being the loudest. It comes from pressure, from carefully packing the most meaning you can into the smallest possible space. Look, Kendrick Lamar built his entire legacy on one profound truth. The real measure of a classic isn't its popularity, it's its density. The Kendrick Principle is the blueprint for that, a system for getting to minimal words and maximum meaning through ruthless compression and deep moral honesty. His whole career points to one single rule, and it's captured perfectly right here. Density is the key to creating an unassailable classic. Think about it. A classic is something you can go back to 100 times and still find something new. That is the power of density. So, we're going to end by turning this whole idea back to you. His system proves that if you commit to making every single thing you create a dense container of meaning, that's how you build something that lasts. So the question is simple. In your own work, in how you communicate, in your art, what will you build with density?